call them by name, high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, all of those things we need to address. And we address it by changing our lifestyle. And the most important part of the lifestyle change is what we eat. So that's my little preaching for the afternoon. Here in CARICOM, our interventions with young people have become much more deliberate. With particular regard to the agricultural program, the Youth Advisory Board in Agriculture is relatively new. It's welcome. We expect to hear. When we say Youth Advisory Board, it's because we want to hear from young people. We want to know how you think about agriculture, how you see it, the contribution you want to make, what is necessary to enable that contribution, how you see yourself grow in the agricultural sector. You know that on our website, the I Am Agriculture campaign is becoming quite a favorite in the community. So we've identified some young people involved in agriculture. We've exposed their businesses. We promote them as best we can as examples to other young people as to what can be done to develop agriculture as a business. And we've had some really good examples of young people becoming involved in business activities and supporting themselves and their families by agricultural enterprise. And if you've not seen them yet, please, I Am Agriculture. Milagro there can tell you exactly where on the website that set of videos can be found, and you will find examples of young people who are making a living at agriculture and sustainable livings, if I might say so, and therefore making a contribution to themselves, their families, and their communities. We also have a dedicated slot for young people in our agriculture-related meetings, and we want to be sure that that continues because your voice must be heard. And we are promoting as much as we can in all of our programming, training, capacity building for young people in agriculture, agricultural trade, business development, and technology. I want to extol the accomplishments of Miss Deandra here. For me, it's important, her example is important for several reasons. One, she's young. Two, she's operating in a sector in which we have tended to highlight the men who have, because we see agriculture as something generally that men do, not necessarily that women do. But in fact, if you look at all our cultures, you will see that women have always played a role in agriculture. We just have to look to see what that role is. Her example is one that I would want us to share a lot more. Not only because of what she's done, but the how of doing it, the focusing on sustainable technologies, the focusing on sharing and teaching and having young people learn to come and learn from what she's doing, how this can be done. And so if we bother you a little bit too much, you must bear with us as we share your example as widely as we can across the community. The young people of the region are really important as producers. We cannot forget that. If we want to be successful in our 25 by 2025, we want young people to produce, but we also want young people to lead in the change of the consumption habits. Because consumption habits as well is one of the causes. If we don't demand what we produce, then we are weakening the market for what we produce. So we need to work at doing that. Today I want to ask young people to do three things. One is to make your voices heard, because your voices matter. I don't want it to be said that we just came here and we talked, because we can do that. without coming here. I want you to feel that your views are welcome, state them, follow up on them, make sure that they enter into. Staff, certainly my staff are here. I know that your
Yes.
staff are here because we want to hear the voices of young people. Secondly, commit yourselves to being transformers and leaders in regional agriculture. And you're fighting against tradition. We understand that. I certainly do. We come from a historical reality where most of us grow looking at agriculture as something you do when you can't do something else. It's not the first choice. We learn that, unfortunately, in our education system, because that's you separate those who are bright and those who are not bright. You send them to do agriculture, industrial, yeah, or cooking, or those kinds of things. Agriculture is not that. Agriculture is a choice you make because it is important for us to be able to feed ourselves. We need new ways of thinking about agriculture, and it has to start at the youngest of ages. It means in our homes, in our families, when we bring up the babies. We used to have a tradition of family gardens where we grow a little thing at the house. Many of us don't do that anymore because it's easier to go to the corner market and buy the tomatoes and the peppers. So let us commit to being transformative in all regards to agriculture. There's a lot of work in this community that we will have to do with our education system to encourage our teachers to be more positive in their outlook on agriculture, because that's where young people learn a lot of the behaviors that carry forward. But there are new approaches, new opportunities that are arising in agriculture that young people are much more likely than the older folk to be able to deal with. You see all this new technology thing? What is the reality? Young people grow with it. We, at our stages, we have to learn it. So you know how to use this. There are opportunities in agriculture that would be that you can bring your ability to absorb, relate with, and integrate technology into agriculture. There are broad ranges of professions in agriculture. It's not only subsistence farming as many of us grow up. There are different kinds of farming nowadays. And I am told you can now operate a highly technical farm from your little corner in the room with your computer, so it waters, everything can happen that way. I don't understand that, quite frankly, but young people do. Young people do. And if there's a way in which you can integrate that technology, fine, bring it on. Agriculture is nowadays being built on big data. So data collection, data use, access, really important. Drone technologies. So I was visiting a place in Costa Rica about a month and a half ago, and they used the drones to go and figure out when water necessary, and if water, and the drones plant seed, drones tell them when the insect attacking what. I didn't know that that could happen, but at my age I'm learning new things. So I like that kind of stuff because it's exciting, it's new, there are new things that we can bring to bear. So finally, we need a clear plan of action to advance agriculture in the region that has a place for young people. You have to help create that place. You have to be one of the agents of change in how we make policy, in how we implement policy, and we want to hear from you on how you think that can best happen to integrate your participation. So when you go back, those of you who come from abroad, those of you who are here trying to develop agriculture here, let us continue the conversation. I'm hoping that there is a network through the advisory body but broader than that, where young people can share information. You know, I know about Facebook and those. I don't know, but I'm told only old people use Facebook nowadays. That's fine. I will admit to that. Whatever you use to communicate, communicate with one another, share the experience, share the expertise, follow her example, share your learning, and let us grow agriculture together. So, thank you very much. There you are.
You know, as the moderator for today's session, you're going to have to hear a lot from me. And I'd like to say um, there were excellent nuggets dropped. Thank you, Dr. Renata Clark. Thank you, Dr. Carla Barnett. And I didn't see much people writing, right? You say inside the Bible, you say in order to get anything from God, you got to remind him of his promises, right? And so we need to be able to write these things down, right? So that we can, right? So that we can, right? Right? Right. Even the ancient Egyptians wrote, and they was way smarter than us. So I mean, you know, some things you got to have the physical data, right? But it was an excellent comment, right, that said that we need to be able to collaborate more. A lot of us got here independently through our own means, but that is clearly not the way to take it to the next level. Right? All of us have come from different areas, different backgrounds, all here for one common loftier goal. And through this goal, I would ask if we could be able to send around a piece of paper so that we could write our numbers down, so that we could be able to continue to network, to collaborate, so that we could come up with regional transformative change. I would like also to thank Deandra Rowe for being the beacon of light, showing us what it is that we can be if we were to use the tools, the gifts that God has given us. And speaking of tools and gifts that God has given us, I would like to say thank you to Vermeran and Ms. Milagro, because without their help, I don't want us to undermine what they have done here. What they have done here is that they have put the chiefs inside the room. They ain't get no low fence. These are chiefs inside the room to understand, right? And so I would like to say thank you, thank you. Furthermore, collaboration is what got me here. You may look at me and you may say, well, Gerard is sitting up here because he is some sort of big farmer. See that guy there, Darlin Curtis? Darlin Curtis, I interned underneath Darlin at the KP Luther Institute. Me and Darlin about the same age. He showed me about mycology. He teach me everything that I know about agriculture. Miss Deandra DeVoe, she was my lecturer at BAMS. I was failing agriculture before she came. Before she came, it was like, this agriculture stuff, I don't understand what it is. Right. But she was the one that was enabling me and provide the structure that I needed in order to progress through agriculture. And so I noticed this within my own life, that as young people, if we collaborate, we can make better of each other. Right? I would also like to talk about better of each other, because what could I do without my great team, right? We have our president, our chair, Miss Chanel Humes, right, from Jamaica. We also have Miss Tisha Mangra Singh. She's the co-chair of the Youth Advisory Body from Guyana. We have Katie Ann Banton from St. Kitts and Nevis. And then we have Miss Kiera. Kiera, forgive me, Scantleberry, Kiera. She is from Barbados. This is just a small portion of the larger group of individuals that came together collaboratively to help create this strategy for agriculture moving forward. Enough with me. Back to the main presentation. We'd like to transition now into session one, where we would have our chair, Ms. Chanel Humes, Jamaica's representative, to open up the panel discussion, and we will be talking about keys to operating a successful agribusiness enterprise. On her panel, she would have Darlin Curtis, a representative from KP Luther Institute with a specialty in mycology, Mr. Terrence Roberts from Berkshire Farm. And we have our own Farmer of the Year, right? Mr. Terrence Roberts, he's the Bahamas' right, newly dubbed Farmer of the Year. Mrs. Tisha Mangra Singh, One Guyana Inc., and the Youth Advisory Body's Guyana representative. We have Diamond Kelshal, should be joining us virtually from Dominica, from Ceres Marketing. Also joining us virtually would be Miss Jade Hutchinson from Guru Marketplace in St. Lucia, and Miss Deandra DeVoe, an agricultural lecturer from BAMSI. We'd like to now turn it over to Ms. Humes, and yes.
I think it's just us for the rest of virtual. Just dialogue.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
You guys speaking? I just need you to pull the voice close to you. Sorry.
Okay.
Is at the registration booth? Yeah, it's at the registration booth.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are we feeling? Did we all have lunch? No. No, I'm sure there are youth in the room. So I want to hear that youthful vibrancy. How are we feeling today? Feeling good. Oh my goodness. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Shaniel Humes. I am the Jamaica representative on the Youth Advisory Body. I am the president. As my colleague already shared with you, we do have a few members of the advisory body in the audience. I want to reiterate their names. I have Kiraya Scanterbury from Barbados. I have Miss Banton from St. Kitts and Nevis. I also have Mrs. Tisha Mangra Singh from Guyana, and of course Gerard Darville from the Bahamas. These are just a small group of our larger group of the advisory body. I also want to thank Milagro and the CARICOM Secretariat for bringing us here. We're actually meeting for the first time since we started last November. So we're just and putting names to faces. So thank you, Milagro and the CARICOM Secretariat. Also, and the FAO, yes? I also want to thank Dr. Barnett. We're honored. We want to thank our stakeholders for being here and, of course, the youth that are with us in-house and persons who are online. Today we want to be opening the youth dialogue. So we're going to be asking for your participation, and just a little background. The Caribbean Week of Agriculture is the premier event on the regional agricultural calendar. And, oh my, I know I have to adjust my voice. And it aims to place agriculture and rural life on the front burner of agricultural regional integration activities. Hosted by CARICOM, AICA, FAO, CARDI, and other partners every 2 years, it serves as a forum for key decision makers to recognize the importance of agriculture and rural life for the region's economic, social, and environmental stability. And I see my minister walking in, Minister Floyd Green, Minister of Agriculture for Jamaica. Please make him welcome. Thank you for joining us. I continue, it also enables stakeholders to engage in dialogue and forge a common vision for the repositioning of agriculture and enhancement of rural life. In this context, ladies and gentlemen, it is imperative to foster dialogue among the youth and various stakeholders to engage in meaningful discussions. And today, on my panel, I want to introduce you to Mr. Dorlan Curtis. He is the rep from Cape Eleutheria Institute. Please give them a round of applause. I have Terrence Roberts. He is from Berkshire Farms. Mrs. Tisha Mangrasingh, One Guyana Inc., and also our Youth Agricultural Advisory Body representative for Guyana. We have Diamond Kelshal, who is joining us virtually online. We also have Jade Hutchinson, Guru Marketplace, who will be joining us online, and Deandra DeVoe. Round of applause for our panelists today. So the format that we're going to be taking is that I'm going to be asking them just a few introductory questions, and then I'll ask for you to participate in asking our panelists questions as well. If you need further clarifications, feel free to raise your hand. We will acknowledge you and you can pose your questions, right? But before we get into it, I'm just going to ask my panel to briefly introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit of your background and what you're doing in your country, and we will start with Dorlan. Oh, you give him this one? Excuse me. Here you go.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dorlan Curtis Jr. So a little bit about myself. I grew up in the Bahamas. I lived in the U.S. for 13 years studying chemical engineering. And the past, between 2016, I did a lot of work in forestry management. So trying to create biofuels from casuarina as a management tool. So essentially just cooking casuarina, producing sugars, feeding them to bacteria, and then producing fuels. Right now, after returning back to the Bahamas, I started working at the Cape Eleutheria Institute in sustainability, primarily in waste management, and that kind of filters into what I do now. So a lot of the work I do as a researcher involves working with mycology, which is essentially the study of fungi, and we use mycology as a way to process cardboard and paper waste because, you know, as we import a lot of food and a lot of goods into the region, we inadvertently import quite a lot of waste, and everything comes in a cardboard box. So using that as a waste management strategy, as well as a way to produce food. And then we're also creating a lot of composites, which are like kind of, they're biomaterials produced from fungus. And my other time, I guess in the Bahamas, I also run a farm. It's called Food Post Farms in Eleuthera. We specialize in growing layer hens, broiler rabbits, and then vegetables. But that's how I spend most of my time back in the Bahamas.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a scientist in the house. Give him a round of applause. Thank you, Dorland. Deandra, tell us a little about yourself and your background, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deandra DeVoe. I am a lecturer at BAMSI. So initially how I got started in the agricultural industry, believe it or not, it took until year 2 of my bachelor's degree program to figure out that agricultural sciences was actually something that people studied outside of subsistence farming and rearing of animals. So I started in year 2. I studied for an additional 3 to get a degree in plant and soil sciences. And then I eventually got my master's in forestry, to which I can marry the two and focus more on like agroforestry applications. So it was because of the disconnect that I had regarding understanding that agriculture was an option, I decided to go into education. So with my understanding and passion for extension and communication, I decided again to take the education route so that I can assist with just bridging the gap between youth and understanding the importance of agriculture, that many careers under the giant umbrella of agriculture exist outside of just the practical application of being on a farm or being near livestock day in and day out, but also just to highlight that there is research and science heavily involved in agriculture outside of, again, just the technical aspects of it. So aside from just my lecturing capabilities, I also do run a small blog on Instagram, just trying my best to connect with the younger audience with disseminating information regarding like backyard farming and what we can do with the small tools that we do have and make something really out of nothing when it comes to agriculture. Because again, my biggest thing is reducing our individual grocery bill per household, and consequently having that sort of awareness will lead into us reducing the overall bill that's, attributed to importing foods in the Bahamas. So that is essentially what I do and about myself in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Deandra. So we do have a teacher on the panel as well, So we have a good mix. Now we go to Terrence.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Terrence Roberts III. I am the managing director at Berkshire Bahamas Farms in Freeport, Grand Bahama, the second city of the Bahamas. So I didn't find agriculture, agriculture found me. So my background is actually in finance and information technology. And I usually call it my come to Jesus moment because, seeking purpose outside of what I do day to day, sitting in an office, in the AC, God kind of directed me elsewhere. And the timing has just been so perfect. We got started right before Hurricane Dorian. And as we were preparing to get our first set of pigs, we were going into the piggery business. Hurricane Dorian hit, devastated our island. And like I say, the timing behind it really brought it all together because after Dorian and then COVID-19 back to back, there are a lot of NGOs and organizations, wanting to assist with agriculture. And I think the difference for what works for us is the background in business and finance and technology. We're able to see it from a different angle than some of those who came before us. They grow up doing this, it's inherited. And for me, it's like, okay, how can we do this even if one thing doesn't work? So we started with pigs, and then understanding that the quality of pig that we raise, the Berkshire breed, which has the highest quality pork, some demographic on our island doesn't really ask for that, or they don't respect the price that it costs to produce. So the layer hen program came along, and the egg price went up, and we started. So it's been an ongoing process, but understanding that we have to focus on a lot of what we're talking about here today, community and education at number one. So we focus on community. So we have relationships with other organizations on the island. For example, we all know that the feed cost is the highest cost when it comes to livestock. So we find other ways to supplement our feed. So we have relationships with like the brewery. We get some of the spent grain to help supplement food costs. Instead of it going to waste at the landfill, also we try to collaborate with hotels, restaurants, and others alike that would give us some of the food scraps that would also assist with that instead of going to the landfill. So it's just trying to pool in the community, but also educate those. So we do farm tours. We also do community service activities on weekends for the high school kids who need to get their hours, but they also learn. And, you know, a lot of what we're saying here today, you know, trying to make it sexy. So, of course, in a lot of ways, it's not sexy, but when you're able to pool technology and even show people the numbers that can actually come from it and looking at it from what agriculture is and not just farming. And I think that's where a lot of us get a little disconnected, where we think agriculture is farming. So, you know, we try to pool education, community, and technology together, and it's going pretty decent for us so far.
Thank you, Terrence. And like you, there are other young persons who agriculture was not their first choice, but it found them. So you're not alone in the game. We want to move now to Mrs. Tisha Mangrasingh. You're going to tell us about yourself and what you're doing in Guyana.
Hello. So I'm Tisha Mangrasingh, and I'm humbled to be the CEO of One Guyana Agriculture, Inc., which is currently fostering the Agriculture and Innovation Entrepreneurship Program, commonly known as the AIEP, or the Shade House Initiative in Guyana. What we do there, it's actually a vision of His Excellency President Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali. He sees it playing a pivotal role in reducing the importation and accomplishing or getting us closer to that 25 by 25 initiative. It was initiated so that we can involve youth in agriculture, but not just agriculture, but from the entrepreneur or the business side of agriculture, showing youth how to do it, how to do agriculture as a business, rather than it's a common slang in our farmers back in Guyana where they say agriculture just dead. It simply means for them that they plant, they harvest, they don't often know what their cost of production are or how to trace what they did in this production, what they can do differently in the next production, so to have efficiency in their production. So this brainchild of His Excellency is actually helping or working as an incubator where we take in youth, train them in every aspect, and I resonate so much with her because we don't hide anything in our production cycle, from our soil technology to our agronomical practices to marketing and branding. And as of recently, we were able to bring in agro-processing. So now we're adding value. We don't hide anything. We teach them everything. We encourage youths across the country to come on board. You have the time, we are there. We are ready to mentor you. We are offering internships to our Guyana School of Agriculture students, our University of Guyana students. Even if you are not pursuing agriculture, agriculture is so diverse that once you come on board, you can see how you can fit in, because we need youths in agriculture. We really need them. And we were able to influence more youth into agriculture because of the program, because it provides that safe space where youths can come, see what we do. Most times when you ask youths, where do you think chow mein come from? They say the supermarket. They simply do not know it came from wheat. And we are influencing youth from nursery school to secondary school. We are now building shade houses in secondary schools so that they can use it for their SBA, so they can actually run it as a business in school, so they know the lucrative value of agriculture. They are there toiling in the soil. They are there selling their own produce. They know everything about it. And because we were able to influence so many youth into agriculture, over 75% of our total participants so far has now owned their own agribusinesses, whether it be in seedling production, because right now we are sustainable in seedling production. We have had major influence on the market. When we first took our produce to the market, because we just came out of COVID, the prices were skyrocket. We were able to reduce that price because we have 54 shade houses that we are currently cultivating, but we're able to build over 200 countrywide for youth-based groups. And we were able to tell the farmers, listen, we are here, we're an innovative team, we are about quality, we are not just about producing, we are about quality. So we were able to produce quality product at a competitive price for the market. we were able to produce things that are not native to Guyana, things like cauliflower, broccoli, and bring it and make it accessible to our people, because we notice that the diet is changing. Everybody wants to step away from the diseases. Everybody wants to eat healthier. And the importation for these crops were so high that our government decided, listen, it's time for us to take a step. Let us involve the youth, let bring them in, let give them all the resource that they need, and let us influence the population to a healthier population through agriculture.
Thank you,
so much.
Mrs. Margaret Singh. And I share your point with educating young persons on where things come from, because in my previous employment, I was a lecturer, and you know, we see where the youth are thinking that, oh, agriculture is just about being a farmer. And so I did a PowerPoint and showing them all the different careers that are in agriculture, and they were surprised because they grew up hearing that agriculture is just farming, but you have technologies, you have database, you have software, the possibilities are endless. So I share your point for educating them and making them knowledgeable of what agriculture really is. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, Diamond Kelshal couldn't join us today, so replacing her, we have Alea De Hero. Sorry for the pronunciation. She is from the Ministry of Youth in Trinidad and Tobago. She's joining us online, and so we ask her to give us a little bit background about herself and to introduce herself to us. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon.
While we wait for Miss Alea.
Hello. Testing. Hello.
Miss Alea.
Can anyone hear me?
While we wait for Miss Alea, ladies and gentlemen, you have a registration form in front of you. Please to complete it and hand it to one of my esteemed colleagues so we can collate those information for further dialogue. Alea, could you speak up for us, please, so we could hear you? Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Now we're hearing you. Go right ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Aliyah Duro Collette, and I am from the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service in Trinidad and Tobago. With me, I have Ms. Anisha, Program Coordinator of the Youth Agricultural Homestead Program, and Ms. Raquel Betty, Program Coordinator of the Youth Agricultural Shade House Project. I myself am the Program Coordinator of the Youth Aquaculture Project at the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. So today we intend to present to you the initiatives of our ministry in promoting youth in agriculture.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We are delighted to speak to you, representing the Ministry of Development and National Service, Trinidad and Tobago, as we commemorate the Caribbean of agriculture. As we gather here, the government is committed to empowering our young people with this necessary tools to the care of agriculture and to meet the target of the 25% reduction of food bill by 2025. Our efforts to create a local agricultural sector is encapsulated in the Youth Agriculture Initiative. This initiative
Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you now. Continue, please. I think we're having a little bit of difficulty.
Technical issue. The youth in agriculture represents a transformative journey that empowers the youth of Trinidad and Tobago with the knowledge, skills, and resources to actively engage in agriculture as a means of livelihood and self-expression. Within our Youth in Agriculture initiative that we have embarked on with Trinidad and Tobago, we have 3 programs that falls under that umbrella. They are the Youth Agricultural Homestead Program, Youth Agricultural Shade House Project, Youth Aquaculture Project. Right. Through this Youth and Agriculture initiative is to produce 50 Tobago by the year 2025. It must be noted, for context, that our population is 1.4 million people. Our youth objective in our participation and productivity of our agricultural sector. As Ms. Beach would have, as Ms. Duru would have mentioned, we intend to create a cadre of 1,500 new young smallholder and commercial farmers. As one of the panelists would have mentioned previously, to increase our
Next, we have outlined the major components of the Youth Aquaculture Project. Similar to YAP, we will first provide agricultural entrepreneurship training. For us, this will be in collaboration with the University of the West Indies, in which successful applicants will graduate with a professional certificate in tropical aquaculture production and management. Second, we will engage in infrastructure development of state-owned aquaculture facilities to provide the necessary resources for the development of aquaculture cooperatives by our students. This will also incorporate the final component, which is the provision of business advisory and support services to ensure that they not only have the resources to succeed, but also the entrepreneurial mindset. Lastly, given that dependency on fish and shellfish imports in the CARICOM region is considerably high, the Youth Aquaculture Project by brings us as a region significantly closer to the Caribbean Blue Revolution through the sustainable development and management of the aquaculture. Center. Program equips or provides our engineers. We at the Ministry of Youth Development and system and then we are I think basically
the needs of our countries and try to find innovative ways of addressing those challenges.
Thank you for having us.
Mr. Jade Hutchinson from Guru Marketplace, St. Lucia. Mr. Hutchinson, are you with us online?
Good afternoon, yes I am.
Wonderful, take it away.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Just want to confirm that I can be heard. Okay, there's an echo again, so
We're hearing you. You can continue the presentation while we work on our technical side here.
that. So can I go ahead?
Alex, go ahead. Are you hearing us?
Oh, okay, yes, I can.
You can go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Jade Hutchinson. I'm from St. Lucia. I run a company called Hero. We've developed a marketplace, well, a procurement management platform and farm operating platform for farmers and buyers. What we do is try to connect buyers and farmers through data, market data, analyzing that, and giving both sides the relevant data to make decisions. So, I start by saying that, you know what, I really hate tomatoes. I remember being at university and having to get, and I bought them simply because I remember growing up having to eat them. But why for me, I'm not sure why I ate them, because I didn't like the flavor. Excuse me, I just didn't like anything about them. But I bought them because that was just something that I had until I went to my friend's farm when I came back home. He was growing some cherry tomatoes and he gave me one off his tree. But what I found out is more time to go to the supermarket and we're buying food on the shelf. Most of these tomatoes are imported, and the flavor and the experience of eating these tomatoes we import versus the experience of eating local tomatoes grown organically was completely different. So it goes to show that we can produce quality. Be vegetarian for a month and to go to the supermarket and bought all that of all the things on my plate, only one thing was actually locally produced. And of all things, it was mushrooms. I mean, everything else I bought fruit and vegetables were all imported. Barriers that hinder the success of that value chain, and develop technologies and solutions around that, with the marketplace being the first one. To do that, we generate a design process where we define the problems, ideate, prototype, test, again, from the testing, the lessons learned to improve the system, and put that back in. But one thing we always remember, it's always about people. People are the ones using the technologies, and that means whatever we do, we need to be solving problems that people are dealing with. So at every stage of our process, we ensure that we actually engage with the stakeholders. And what we did early on was set up a stakeholder committee, which we could go back to whenever we have challenges, and they were able to feed back into the process and help us improve and ensure that we're developing the right solution for the right stakeholders. So again, what we have is this online marketplace where you can get on, and for buyers, what they're able to do is provide data to farmers, whether it be the amounts, quantity, quality, specifications to the farmers, and the farmers can then respond to that over time. So we're looking at supply and demand trending, and then using all the data we have, tracking purchases and invoices to do record keeping for farmers, and also make online payments. But so just ensuring we get that message to each of our stakeholders correctly. I remember speaking to farmers, and a lot of times when we speak to some of our agency partners or governments, they always talk about the farmers being the challenge. But in our experience, the farmers have always told us, if there's money in whatever we need to do, we'll do it. As far as they're concerned, what's in it for me is money. However, on the buyer side, what the challenges we have are always about, that's not the way we do things. We have processes in place, internal processes, and therefore what you're doing, what bringing in new technologies is a change in operations, and that's a bit more of a difficult boat to change direction. So the farmers generally have more awareness, well, I won't say more awareness, they're very, they're the ones willing to adopt the technologies earlier, but we have to do a lot of work with buyers to ensure that they understand the benefits of what we're selling. So initially what we've been doing is a very heavy touch marketing, where we actually meet them in person, train farmers, train buyers, and also doing targeted projects. So ensuring that not only we're giving them the training, but actually putting them through programs and projects which they can help them see the benefits. So one such project is something called a non-traditional crop program, where we've identified a number of commodities which we import and working with the supermarket to help reduce the import and using the platform to help the connection between the farmer and the buyer. On the other side, what we would really love to move towards is a lighter touch. Once people understand the platform, we could then start doing less and less hand-holding and a few more things directly through the platform in terms of instructional videos or new features when we launch them. But what I've found that people lack generally in the region, or at least in the smaller islands, and my experience in St. Lucia, is the fact that we don't really have a cohesive strategy, or at least one that's not articulated to everyone properly. So what exactly is the vision? What are the goals we're trying to achieve? And what are the various activities we need to do? As a small business, I mean, we know that access to finance has always been an issue. And also just online payments. So how do we transfer money, not just as a business, to help us grow? In smaller islands where credit card payments are more difficult to get by, we're always having to innovate to find interesting ways to move money around. So we need better policies around that. Another challenge we noticed is that a lot of the government projects, a lot of them don't seem We've had conversations across different islands, and some of the challenges we noticed is obviously the shipping routes and the technology deployment, having policies which actually overarch in the Caribbean as to how best we can utilize the resources that we have. And there's still some nationalism around, and that obviously does affect the rollout of certain, or how we deal with certain problems that we face. And one of the things that I've noticed as well, and which we would really love to see, is the increase in research and development. So we need to start developing solutions that not only based in the Caribbean, but understanding more about how our climate, how the challenges we're going through affect food production, affect that value chain, and how we could then develop solutions around that. So just in terms of recommendations, something that we've looked at across a youth development framework is the access to finance. Obviously, whether it be grant funds, but equity investment, especially for tech companies like mine and others who are really trying to do something different. We're trying to build new solutions for the market. Mentorship, entrepreneurs tend to be very, very I'm not going to use the word arrogant, but we tend to think sometimes some of us tend to think we're the smartest people in the room. But we need all this to kind of support us in that journey and help us understand and just help where we're going wrong, help guide our journey forward.
So, you know, we just went ahead and we formed our own relationship with that feed mill, so they send it directly to us in Grand Bahama. And that's the thing about understanding the geography as well. Grand Bahama is closer to America than New Providence is. And I believe that as a chain of islands, we need to be able to use the islands based on their geography. And you know, how can we work together to make sure all of the other islands get what they need as well? So that's one thing that we did. And now it's at a point where we resell feed. So we bring in feed for our animals, and we sell feed to other farmers, backyard farmers. And it's at a point now where we have to start bringing it by the container load. And if anyone in other islands need access to it, Berkshire Bahamas Farms is ready and willing to assist with that.
Great. But talk to me, Deandra. You say you're a teacher and you want to be informing the youth of, you know, what is happening in the agricultural sector, the different careers that are available, and how they can actually produce their own food. What are some of the challenges, and do you think that the youth that you are engaging with are receptive to what you're saying? Are they taking the information receptively, or what do you find in your neck of the woods?
So being in the field of education, you find that there are two groups of students. So ones that come from a rural community versus those that come from a more urbanized community. And the disconnect between the two is that the rural students have more of an appreciation for agriculture as it relates to commercial crop production, even as it relates to like subsistence farming as well. But those that come from a more urban community, they look at agriculture as maybe like the fourth or fifth option that fall beneath like becoming a doctor or a lawyer, accountant, you know, the traditional career paths. So the biggest disconnect when it comes to like the tertiary education is the willingness for those in an urbanized setting to now prioritize agriculture or see it as an equal to medicine or accounting or just anything in relation to like business, finance, law, etc., and get them to understand that even though agriculture may not be promoted as something related to business or again like medicine, you have so many disciplines under the giant umbrella of agriculture that allows you to play a role in, for example, with forestry, you have things like urban tree law. So you have a space to where you can communicate or expand your knowledge or appreciation, passion rather, in law and connect it to agriculture. You also have spaces to where, and this is always a surprise when I let my students know that fashion is a direct connection to agriculture, because essentially our textiles that come from agriculture also assist with you know, the clothing that we wear today. Jute as it relates to the burlap bags that we use for post-harvest production, or cotton that we use for our clothing. You know, there's so many different concentrations within the umbrella of agriculture that I now have to, I guess, highlight to more urban students to get them to understand that, again, agriculture holds the same level of priority as other you know, career paths, and, you know, again, making the connection between those different communities is really one of the biggest obstacles. But a solution to that as well, outside of just what I lecture in my courses, is offering external courses like maybe intensive 7-week programs like I have at BAMSI. There is a backyard farming course for any age that is willing to enroll, where we talk about intro to soil, or how you can use just the tools that you have at your own home for the purpose of establishing your own farm, just by even reducing your grocery bill maybe by $20 a week. And a lot of people look at it as, well, that's no amount of money, but as frugal as I am, $20 goes a very long way per week. So just having these types of programs to provide those participants with paperwork to show that, okay, I'm certified now in, you know, starting a backyard farming business. I never knew that it existed before, but because places like BAMSI exist with this tertiary education regarding agriculture, we're able to now expand and, you know, have so many different groups of individuals, whether they be considered youth or those looking at the registration form, 50 and above. You know, there is room for everybody in that one space to really coexist. You don't have to have a biology background. You don't have to have a chemistry background to enroll in these programs rather. So again, this is really just the foundation of getting people to develop an appreciation for what agriculture actually is. So those certificate programs, specifically the backyard farming program, is basically just a foundation or a stepping stone into furthering your appreciation, even if you don't want to take it further, but furthering your appreciation to know that there's a science that exists behind agriculture. And then you have institutions, again, like the Island School and BAMSI that offer like associate's degree programs to assist you with improving your foundational knowledge, consequently having you connected with other four-year universities to, you know, expand your theoretical knowledge, whether you take it to the master's degree program, PhD, even just bachelor's. But again, those are some of the, I guess, obstacles that I do face as an educator, and one of the ways to which I assisted with trying to combat that particular obstacle.
And of the persons that are admitted into your programs, how do you find the male to female ratio in those programs?
So when I initially started the program, this was during the pandemic. So in 2020, I found that of 20 students, 18 of them were women.
Okay.
And there were just 2 men. So with the backyard farming, I noticed again, it probably was considered more of like a hobby type of experience, to which they're like, okay, well, it's more feminine to want to create a garden per se. But again, it's not just for small production. You can take the knowledge within these backyard farming courses and produce commercially. It's not just something that you do as a hobby, but it is something that you can create or make as a career, even outside of maybe an existing career that you do have.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Tisha, tell us about some of the obstacles that you faced in your initiative and some of the solutions that you are implementing. What prompted you to start that type of initiative in the first place?
So there's a little bit of history when it comes to our program. We had just graduated from the University of Guyana, all qualified in agriculture. And it was at the point when we were just recovering from COVID. So we wanted agriculture. Everybody was fascinated about agriculture at that point. Everybody wanted to grow then because the value of agriculture was seen. So actually we approached His Excellency on it, tell him that we're interested, that there's a lot of person that is qualified in agriculture and are not working within their fields. They're working outside of their fields. And if we can collaborate in such a way that our young people that are qualified in agriculture, because oftentimes we find persons are qualified in agriculture in the theory part, but when it comes to the practical, they don't have much practical knowledge of it. So that is how our initiative was actually birthed. His Excellency listened to us and he said, listen, we are going to collaborate. We are going to create a space for young people. And 2 years later, we were able to help not only our country, but we're able to collaborate regionally with Trinidad, with St. Vincent, with Barbados. This initiative is now growing, and a lot of persons are seeing the value of fostering young people, giving them the resource and what is possible with them. Of course, we are young people, so we did not have all the practical knowledge, so collaboration was key. We collaborated with our national Agriculture Research Institute. We collaborated with ICA. We collaborated with FAO because we realized, listen, these are the experts. They already know what is it that we need. If we are having challenges in some areas and they can help us with a workshop, with a seminar, whatever it is, we are all about training our young people to be the best in their fields. And collaboration is the key.
Hi, good day, Ms. Singh. I want you to tell me a bit more about the program, like how well is your program doing in Guyana, right? The turnover, revenue? And would you be willing to partner here with the Bahamas? I hear you call a lot of names, but, you know, knock, knock.
Of course, we have been collaborating regionally. So we can do the logistics after and get you on that path, because our sister countries, we were able to help, as I mentioned, Barbados, Trinidad, show you a success of our initiative. When it comes to finance, we were able to make over $2 million since the initiation. Of course, our young people are shareholders, so eventually we would set up a fund so that they can benefit from it. So even though they're volunteering their time, they might see it as volunteering, even though we're teaching them every aspect of it, they would still receive funding. So that is an incentive that keeps them coming too.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Singh. And while we're presenting, if you have a question you need to ask our panelists, please feel free to raise your hands. But I want to get to Alea. You spoke of some initiatives, some programs that you have in Trinidad and Tobago, and you spoke about achieving the 25 by 2025 vision. So I want to know, how can youth support in achieving this goal, and doing so in the context of your company and the programs that you have in your region, in your country? Alea? Could you speak up for us, please? Your mic is open, but we're not hearing you. Not hearing you, Miss Alea. Are you still there with us? All right, while Alea comes, let's pass the question to Dorlan. How do you think youth can support the vision 25 by 2025?
Well, I think it's important, how they can support. I think thinking of the context of the Bahamas, a lot of us aren't necessarily exposed per se to agriculture. I think in supporting that, understanding the voices that they have in terms of as consumers and producers. So one of the things is like pushing for more things to consume locally. So one example would be, I used to teach at the Harbor Island Green School. They had this initiative called Green Fridays, where they set up like this composting system. So they would always collect their food waste, compost it either on site or they would send it to my farm. But it was a challenge initially because the kids were like, well, my parents are just throwing this food waste in the garbage, so like, why would I care? Or like, I don't have a voice. Right. But, through teaching them every Friday about that, they first were like, okay, this worm guy is coming in every Friday, teaching us about earthworms and also teaching us about food waste. I am now going to bother my parents every day, and to the point where the parents now adopted, these practices. And it might seem like very trivial, but, they are now the economic drivers of like understanding, I'm buying food, I'm throwing it away. That's now going to be composted and feeding back into the agricultural system. And just trying to bring things full circle. So I think that's, how youth can be, I guess, helping us to get to those targets by literally being small voices to like persons that can actually make and do like significant changes. Yeah.
And Tisha, you spoke about your initiative that you're doing. You are now producing crops that are not native to your country. And how has that impacted your food import bill?
So because we were able to make things that are not native to Guyana more accessible to our population, we noticed that the local consumers actually prefer our products because the taste is better. They know where it comes from because on the farm we we utilize IPM, so chemical is our last resort. And of course they're supporting youths. So that demand for the produce that we were importing has now shifted to us, and we are now supplying those demands.
Okay, and Miss Deandra, how do you think that youth can support the Vision 25 by 2025?
So for the youth that are currently within the industry, what I do like to extend to my students, especially those who have already graduated, choose passion over popularity. And when I say that, regarding crop production specifically, you don't want to just continuously grow what you think is popular, because eventually you'll just run out of gas and decide that, okay, maybe agriculture just isn't my thing, when really and truly you should have taken the route of passion. Whereas, again, when your job is your passion, you never get tired of it. So just the idea of choosing passion over popularity is essentially how I feel youth can assist with the 25 by 25.
Thank you. You have a question?
Afternoon, everybody. And let me just commend you. I got to hear at least all of your stories here, and I think it's very inspiring for our region. If you had one issue that you would want your Minister of Agriculture to work on, what would that be?
I guess I'll start since I have the mic. One of, hey, Minister. No pressure. But one of the biggest issues I feel that we do face in the country is adding agriculture to the curriculum in primary and secondary schools. So when you have individuals joining the tertiary level to learn about agriculture, there's no foundational information. So you have students enrolling in these programs thinking that, oh, I don't need biology, I never did it in high school. There's no importance in biology or chemistry, at least this is what they're thinking. There's no importance in enrolling in biology or chemistry, taking it as electives, because agriculture doesn't need it. It's just going in the farm, doing your practical work, and that's it. But if we have that incorporated within our curriculum from the primary level, because as Dorlin stated, you know, once you engage with the little kiddies, they're like our mouthpieces letting their parents know that, hey, this is important or this exists. And as you create that sort of excitement around agriculture from that stage, then you're able to continue the process up until, you know, you have people who are graduating from high school saying, hey, I want to be a soil scientist. You know, that's not really something that we hear often in the country. I want to be a soil scientist. I want to be a plant pathologist. I want to study mycology or plant or soil taxonomy, you know? So again, starting from the curriculum from a primary level is something that is of utter importance that I do feel like we are lacking, but I do have a lot of hope that it will be something that is implemented moving forward.
I guess I'll go next.
I see you looking at your minister over there.
Yeah, I was hoping
Minister, you have to take notes to the minister.
After Minister.
Back to the minister.
Yes. I think I would say probably three big issues, just to keep it brief, but I think one is like farm insurance or a system of farm insurance for like both crops and livestock. I mean, we've seen with like climate change and the increase in like storm intensity, but I think that's one of the assurances that farmers can get that can be great. And the other two I guess things that the ministry can probably work on. I'm very passionate about waste. It's a dirty job, but I think there's a lot of synergies that exist with food production that we could probably tie the knot in the Bahamas. So understanding the amount of food and biodegradable waste that we send to the landfill, like synergizing that between Ministry of Agriculture and like, you know, Ministry of Health to try and like intercept a lot of that waste to feed literally the soil to help with our farmers. And then the last thing is food, like production of livestock feed on both the aquaculture and livestock component. I think it didn't really hit home for me until I started raising rabbits and was like, okay, it's really hard to find rabbit food and then trying to like produce or grow hay. But you drive on Eleuthera, there's like grass growing everywhere. And like, I just stop to people's houses, cut the grass, dry it. But it's like these are things I think we can embed into our like agricultural system. Is like people probably don't want to be raising livestock, but they might have marginal lands that they can grow, you know, forage for the for farmers. So I think those would be the three issues that, yeah, Ministry of Agriculture can make it work. Yeah.
Passing the mic to Terrence.
I think the biggest issue which connects with all of this is really just collaboration. And I'm not too sure if it's solely on expecting something from the ministry. I think it's us as a people coming together and saying, okay, well, let's form cooperatives. Let's form organizations where we work together and pool resources. Let's pool our knowledge. Let's pool education. Everything that comes together with agriculture, we have to be able to work together. Because, I mean, if you need rabbit feed, I can send you rabbit feed, you know. But I'm just saying it's just all about networking. So even in rooms like this, like, you know, we're taking numbers down and, you know, we should be able to form relationships, form groups, a community of agriculturalists. And starting at home, solidify that and then, you know, flow through the region. And of course, we keep the minister involved with all that's happening. So now that he can help to take it further on our behalf. But sometimes we can't just expect it to happen on the ministerial level. We have to show them what we're ready and capable of doing, because they do have initiatives where they try to push and then some of us aren't as receptive. So we have to, you know, get started first, come together and show what we can do.
So, as I mentioned, my challenge was funding and access to land. Our government listened, and our government gave us an incubator program. And we've seen across the region the success of that program. So I want to summons my minister because we have a lot of projects that are ongoing right now. We have from marine cages to corn and soya, so our shade house initiative using climate smart technologies involving youth. And each of these, there's just to name a few, each of these programs has been in the rural areas. It has been in agriculture region in our country. But I believe the key is providing finance and startup costs for farmers that have innovation. We have to pair innovation with youths. We have to rely on them. They know technology. They know innovation. When a problem comes, they're in their prime state. They know how to solve it. And once we can provide finance and give them access, I believe we can see the success of agriculture in our region tremendously.
Jade, do you want to respond to that question as well? Mr. Hutchinson? Yes, go ahead.
So, I mean, I think one thing I'd love to see the ministry do is just think about agriculture differently. So think bigger. Very often that we find we still, I mean, as important as backyard farming is, there is still a need to start to think slightly differently about agriculture, think bigger to allow, so we therefore bring in the right technologies in, the right seeds in, the right inputs in, think bigger to allow the farmers to have access to things like the financing that they need. Very often what I've found is, we think about farming as a backyard event, and therefore we think of farmers as persons who may not see the need for technologies, and therefore we're only looking at farming as agriculture. And if we take a step backward and we look at the value chain, we realize that farmers can grow and they need the right technology. So if we start thinking about increasing our production per square foot, we look at, again, technology that we could do that with. When we take a step back, the cold chain in the Caribbean is a challenge. So a farmer can produce, but when he delivers his produce, there is no cold chain integrity. So therefore, we have challenges in export. So if we could think about the whole value chain and where different people can start to have impact. So that comes down to transportation, production, agro-processing, and therefore we can see there are a lot more opportunities for young people within the sector. So if we could broaden our vision and actually look over and over the value chain and look at the bigger picture a bit broader, then we would be able to get a lot more out of agriculture than we currently do.
Thank you so much. We have a question from the audience.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone, and good afternoon to all panelists. Good evening, I should say. My name is Lakia Joseph. I am from Dominica, and I am the junior minister in the Ministry of Agriculture, and I'm specifically responsible for agro-processing. And I'm 23 years old, something we haven't seen before in the history of my country, or I think the Caribbean. And one of my main challenges in the Ministry of Agriculture, and I will pose my question after I'm done with my rambling, is that I don't think we take agriculture seriously enough. And to the advisory body here, our panelists and everybody who is listening, I think we need to develop in each and every country an agriculture cohort that can actually be activists for agriculture. We don't see the construction industry advocating so much for persons to become construction workers or engineers, but we have to work so hard for people to actually just be interested in agriculture. It starts out of schools, and it goes all the way down to even persons who, our parents, our grandparents, and we see these people who were traditionally agriculturists or, well, farmers, and all they know is to plow the land. But for us, it's a different tangent, and we've been speaking of the future from years before, generations before, and the future has arrived. We are here, and we are the present. So we need to be a little more aggressive when it comes to agriculture, and we really need to be activists for agriculture. So my question to you is, what is your level of aggression as it relates to agriculture? I know you're passionate, just like I am, but how do you resonate that passion to the smaller children, the people around you, even persons in your own home? What do you do to encourage them to be interested, involved, or actively participate and engage in agriculture? And secondly, I'm an agro-processor myself, and in Dominica, in my field of agro-processing, it's essential oils and turmeric powder and moringa powder and all of these healthy, natural stuff. And it's an industry where I have seen older folk being engaged in. So I have no one in my age group engaged in the agro-processing of coconut oil or castor oil or carrot oil or mixed oils for hair and skin and stuff like that. So what is our plan as it relates to agro-processing? How do we go forward in encouraging the youth to become involved in some of these industries? Because when these elderly people are gone and we can no longer gain the knowledge from them, how are these industries going to be sustainable? How are we going to continue with those industries? And how are we going to trade among ourselves with certain things that I produce that you don't produce, and what you produce, I don't produce? And when I demand it, where do I get it from? Latin America, the United States, Africa, Europe? How do we sustain ourselves as a region, and how do we achieve this 25 by 2025 goal through agro-processing and encouraging the youth to be involved in agriculture?
I think I can get started with that. I think we have to meet them where they are. And what I mean by that is with our communication, marketing. So if the youth are usually on tablets, they're on social media, on those kinds of platforms, we have to start using those platforms. So there are many ways that, when I first got into agriculture, farming, I didn't find many farms on social media. A lot of farms, at least around where I am, don't have websites. And we have to be able to meet them where they are. Kids aren't outside like they used to be. They're at home on tablets, they're on YouTube, and the ads popping up all the time. And I mean, we have to treat it as a business. You put your money into it and pay for sponsored ads. These kinds of things will start to show them. I mean, when you look at how America runs, like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, it's advertisement. It's always in your face. So we have to meet them where they are. I believe that's where we should start.
Okay, we have a we have a comment over here from Mr. Virgo, and then we'll take questions. One moment, please.
I don't think I need a mic. I'll put it low. Good afternoon, everyone. For the?
Or for the online.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Colin Virgo. I am chairman for 4-H in Jamaica. I'm also the regional 4-H chairman for Caribbean and Latin America. And not so long ago, I was elected vice chairman as well for 4-H Global, so for all the 4-H in the world. Now, the conversation that I hear going on right now is so timely. Funny enough, my Minister of Agriculture, Floyd Green, 7 years ago when he was State Minister for Education and Youth, we had signed an MOU at the time with him and the Ministry of Education and Youth to do precisely that, to inculcate agriculture into the curriculum for the schools. And it was a big help. It really, really was a big help. I'll be totally honest, it's still not perfect, but the only reason it's not perfect yet is just manpower abilities, Jomo, because you have to have, obviously, within each institution, someone with either the willingness or the capacity. And on any given day, I'll take willingness even over capacity to guide the students along that path of agriculture. And truthfully, the person who is doing it, they don't need to be a member staff of the school. Some of our volunteers, as Shenil will tell you, she came up through the 4-H movement, are parents. They are past 4-H clubites, and so on. They're not necessarily staff members of the respective institutions. But our program is so successful that Jamaica's 4-H club is the second largest in the world. We have over 100,000 clubites actively for a small country like Jamaica with a population of less than 3 million. And it's also the reason and it's also the reason that we are able to boast one of the lowest average age farmers in the world. Because, so this conversation that I'm hearing is really focused on the right path. Just not to take up too much time, I'll just tell you one more thing that we do. So one of our flagship programs is called REAP, the Rural Youth Economic Empowerment Program. So what do we do in that program? Basically, if you decide that you're going to go into an agricultural venture as a business, so not as a side piece, not a little backyard, hobby or backyard garden or whatever. You are going to go into food as a business, because that's our minister's mantra back home. You must see food as a business. It's a sure business. People have to eat. Just like the funeral man realized that people have to die. So what we do, we train you for anywhere 6, 9, 12 months, whatever period of time it takes us to successfully train you in both aspects, both in the agricultural aspect, whatever area of agriculture it is, to include fisheries, and then in the business side of it. So all of the business management skills. And when we are satisfied that you have been properly trained to run that business successfully, we don't leave you on your own, because evaluation is also crucial to us, Minister. We give you a grant. We give you a grant to kickstart that business, both cash and tools or equipment that will be relevant to that sort of business. And that program has been a tremendous success. I'm happy I see Dion Gibson in here, Minister. So in my capacity as chairman now for the region, this entire region was dormant. Jamaica was the only active 4-H movement in this region. In the last 7 or so months since I've taken over, we are now up to 7 other active territories. And bear in mind, I don't have a budget. I do all these things on my own, at my own expense. But one of the things that I really, really, really need for the 4-H programs in your respective countries to be successful, there needs to be at least some level of government support. Even the 4-H USA, which is extremely successful, relies on government support. They are funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Likewise, Finland. Likewise, Korea. Likewise, Japan. Likewise, Taiwan. Likewise, Canada. Right? So even those developed and advanced countries recognize the importance of state support for this activity, because the future of agriculture can only rest with the youth. We cannot afford for farmers and agriculturalists to become a dying breed. So while I'm here this week, I have really one mission in the back of my mind, and it is to engage as much of the leadership of the respective territories from the Caribbean in some deep and serious conversations as to, we have a formula that works. So I want the opportunity to share with all of you how to get this 4-H movement back up and running and successful in your respective countries. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Virgo. And I stand behind whatever he said because I am a product of the Jamaica 4-H clubs. I started in 2006, and I basically came up in the 4-H clubs. They're the ones who made me here because of them. And I was going to respond to her question to say that the Jamaica 4-H clubs is one of those organizations who have been, over the recent years, been prioritizing agro-processing and pushing it. Because a lot of times we find that we are importing a lot of processed products from overseas that we can make at home. And so the Jamaica 4-H clubs accepted the challenge and say, hey, we're going to do this. And they have been incorporating the youth successfully in these programs. And he spoke about the REAP. They are doing grants for these programs. They're giving them startup capital inputs for them to go there and do agriculture as a business, not just a hobby, because a lot of times you find that youth are out there and they're doing agriculture, but it's just a hobby. They're just growing a one goat, raising a couple chickens. It's just a hobby. But the Jamaica 4-H clubs is one of those organizations who are actually teaching them to do it as a business. So thank you for that point. Mr. Virgo, we go to the audience for more comments and questions. You had a question, ma'am?
I really had a comment. Just to piggyback on what our junior minister said earlier, she made mention of how we are approaching our youth. I think the first thing that we need to look at is we need to recognize that there's a stigma attached to agriculture. And in order for us to get our youth involved in agriculture, we have to first break that stigma. Because how much of us in here as young people in agriculture, people always ask me, why did you decide to study agriculture? Like every time I tell someone this is my field, they are baffled as to why. And this is because of the stigma that is associated with agriculture. So we need to sell agriculture as a science. When I started my program, yes. When I started my program, we started with most of these students approach agriculture as just farming. So what they did not recognize is that there is agroengineering. They did not anticipate biochem. So they were not approaching it as a science. So when they got into the field or into the studies and realized that it was an actual science, we lost more than 90% of our students. So I think that's what we need to do. We need to, first of all, find a way to break the stigma associated with agriculture. Persons assume that when you're in agriculture, you're illiterate. They assume that it's because you could not get into medicine or law. But no, this is a choice I made because I know I'm capable. And that is how we need to sell agriculture, in my opinion.
You're right. Thank you, Ms. Banton. We run over again for more comments. See this gentleman here had his hand up?
I have a comment and a question, really. Funny enough, about 26 years ago, I came to the Bahamas as a youth delegate, and it was through the Commonwealth Youth Program, CARICOM, and so on. So what they're doing with guys here, I just want to commend CARICOM, FAO, and so on, who are enabling the kind of work that's happening, and to encourage further work along the line. I don't want to rehash too many things except to raise the issue, just to CARICOM 25 by 25 and your role in that. And one of the things I want to highlight is that the competition that we face, even at home with the imported products, is as a result of collaboration between mega farms, billion-dollar company, Cargill, shipping companies, R&D companies, and so on. That is what is creating the success that enables them to come right on our doorsteps and deliver products, essentially competing against our local producers. And just to say again, I am convinced that we are on the right path. We have more young persons, multi-talented young persons who are making the initiatives, taking the initiatives, but also leading. My question is, have you given thought to how to collaborate? And I'm kind of picking up on one of the points raised by Secretary General. Have you thought about the platforms that would enable not just the advisory role, but would enable the business functions that would allow us to build strength and which would enable interregional trade and effectively, eventually, make this a powerhouse for selling Caribbean products? Yeah.
Any of the panelists can go ahead,
Okay, so in Grand Bahama, we've had a lot of conversation, and I've been in a number of different groups, and it is more exciting when you are in groups with younger, bright minds, excited minds, enthusiasm, versus some who are just sitting there on the way out. So like I mentioned earlier, we talk about cooperatives. And I think sometimes we think a bit small because what has happened traditionally, especially in the Bahamas, we have farmers co-ops. But what we have recently done, we've established a multi-purpose co-op where the bond isn't just based on being a farmer. You can come from any walk of life, so the interest is there for all. And that's where we can also be able to educate our community on the different areas of agriculture that makes it more sexy.
Anyone else wants to give it a go? No? All right. Oh, Minister wants to make a comment.
Just a quick observation. Our Excellency and I just left sexy again, make it attractive to young persons. Well, I think what was said was indeed spot on, and it really comes down to promoting our young stars in the field and letting them take the front stage, letting them have the limelight, and attracting young persons in the industry. We have a degree holder in our youth winner, Ms. Rowe from Jamaica. In the video, it was indicated that she has a degree, but she said that agriculture chose her. We have Mr. Gibson here from the Department of Agriculture, he and I are both in the same category, and I still consider myself young. So I just want to say hats off to everyone participating in this session, whether in person or virtually, and just simply see what is being shared speaks volumes. And I just want to congratulate you all again, and it certainly shows Your Excellency that even if only for the youth session of this CWA conference, we are indeed making remarkable strides. And that is what it's all about, looking to our brothers and sisters right next door to each other in the Caribbean region. We don't have to go to Europe. We don't have to look to North America for most of our solutions. And if we collaborate more, we'll find that most, if not all, programs could be found in Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad, or any of our CARICOM states. And so I just want to applaud you all and to encourage you in your efforts.
Give yourselves a round of applause. You're being big up by your Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Campbell. Our Secretary General wants to make a comment. Yes, we are.
Yes. My objective, as I said at the start today, was to listen. Because we have a tradition, sometimes it feels like a tradition, of developing policy for young people.
state in the Caribbean. So there's two things for me. I think we should support all collaboration, all collaborative efforts, and how we invest, because as to what we need to be able to do. Thanks.
Thank you. Alea, your final remarks, please. You can go ahead, Alea.
Okay. I have a session on livestock. I have a session now on livestock feed. Yeah.
Yes, we're hearing you. Could you speak up, please?
Hi, good afternoon. So I just want to say that it was a very fruitful meeting. And just like the previous panelists would have said, collaborating is very important to achieving 25 by 25. Also, what one of the ministers would have mentioned, that we have all the resources, we have the skills, we have the experts, we have the technical capacity right here in the Caribbean region. Our sister islands would face. So we in Trinidad and Tobago look forward to continued discussions, continued collaborations that would improve our local food supply, our regional food supply, and strengthen our food systems in various countries. So we want to thank you very much for having us, and once again we look forward to continuous collaborations.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we would have seen where through the discussions and the questions and the comments that collaboration is one of the key things that we must take away from this session, and we need to listen to our youth. Yes? We thank our Secretary General for being here with us. We thank our Minister for being here with us. We thank you for being here with us. And the discussion doesn't stop here. We continue, but informally. And so now I would like to hand over to Milagro. She will take us into the next session of our youth dialogue. Thank you very much for having us. Thank you, online persons, for joining. I now hand over to Milagro.
Thank you, everyone. We're asking for all the youth to remain, please, so that we can have your voices counted,
Roses import by half.
your recommendations included on the roadmap.
That collaboration, because there's a lot of good information.
So, guys, the Youth Advisory Body, made up of Katie Ann Banton, Mr. Pook, Jared, Tisha, Karia, and Chanel, will break up into groups. We ask that you join a group. I think we can fit in here, right? We can work from here. This is a working session, guys. Oh, there's no group anymore? Oh, come on. Come on, explain the new rules, please. Okay, we'll do everything together.
Yeah. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. We'll all come closer together and discuss the roadmap together, and the persons online will have an opportunity to also give input. If we went into groups, we wouldn't consider those who are online either. So we didn't want to break them up. So we felt if we all spoke on the topics, have the chairs of the subject, the strategic objective, discuss it. The thing about it though is that it's 5 o'clock, and the next session is at 7:30. The opening. Agreed. So we're going right through till 7?
1 hour, 5 to 6, it's 5 o'clock.
It's 5 o'clock. Okay, so we're going for 1 hour. which means each objective will have 15 minutes. So I'll ask the chairs to just read the main objective. What we want to do is identify the key actions that need to be taken that you feel are priority to get the youth agenda moving. The Youth Council have developed and identified these objectives through their deliberations this year. And these are the objectives we would like confirmation on, as well as your ideas on how we move them forward. So for the first objective, I'm allowing you to help. Oh no, I see it here. Is that okay? So we all talk together and add to it together, and therefore we save some time. The first objective is on increasing youth engagement through promotion of innovative digital technologies and increased sustainable productivity. And Katie and Banton and Vladimir Pluck will be the ones sort of coordinating this type of discussion. Are they here with us? Only Cadian. That's okay. What I want Cadian to do is just take the conversation forward, and what are the ideas that come to mind. It's really going to be a really raw session, collecting information. And then we come back later on with a validation session, everybody to share what we have, pulled it together. Is that okay? Yes. So I pass to Cadian, and then I'm just going to look for the sheets. Where are the working sheets that we have? Gerard, the working sheets? The legal sheets we printed that says steps, what are the actions we want to see, given all what we've heard. The folder with... All right, and I can't see who's online.
That's a great guy. That's how God is work.
Yeah, so we're just going to sit and discuss it together. I wish I could take off some of the light in here a little bit, though. The heat is real.
Yeah,
So,
Droma was crying.
really? Yeah, the heat is real today. All right, since there's so few of us, if we just come closer, just not too close, and I don't think we need the mic.
No.
The online persons can hear us?
Right, sorry. And online, we come into the chat to look at you because we've had many persons who needed to leave those of us here who are the youth, minus me, in the session. All right, so the things we want to look at. What is your main activity is the question you want to look at. So we want to identify at least 6 main activities. Then you want to determine who are your collaborators for those activities, for each activity, and what timeline you want that activity to be done in. Those are the 3 things we want to get at least identified today. And we want to leave with at least some information, some activities under each objective in that order. Is that clear? Helpful? Yes? So Ms. Banton, I could pass to you. You may have some initial thoughts. We also shared copies of the draft strategy. You could refer to it. You all know it. You all wrote it. And speak to it so those online who may not be familiar with it have an opportunity to get better here and understand what you have already started. So I pass to Ms. Banton.
Okay, so I'm going to sit here.
No, you can sit. I don't know if the camera will see you.
All right, so good afternoon to everyone. So my objective, what I'm dealing with today, is increasing youth engagement through the promotion of innovation, digital technology, and an advancement to increase efficiency and sustainability in productivity. Now, I'm hoping to have a dialogue with, sorry? My mic? Okay, so I'm hoping that this will be a discussion between each and every one of us that's in the room today. Now, when we look at youth engagement in agriculture, I think that technology has to be at the forefront, right? We are looking at protective agriculture in terms of our greenhouses. We are looking at hydroponics, right? So these are all areas that we need to focus on if we are going to try to get our youth more engaged in agriculture. So I would like to hear from everyone here. No, why not? All right, so I would like to hear from, sorry?
So, ladies and gentlemen, basically what Ms. Banton was explaining is that the Youth Advisory Body has come up with a youth strategy to achieve the Vision 25 by 2025. This strategy is being planned by the advisory body, but we need to hear your input on it. If you agree with what we have, if you want to add something, or if you don't think something would work, and also those organizations or companies within your respective countries who you think will be able to achieve this objective or these activities that will help us to achieve the vision. So we would like to hear from you. We don't want you to sit down and just listen to what we have, because we want to know if you are in agreement, because we're not planning for ourselves only, we're planning for everybody. So we want your voices to be heard. Persons who are online, we're going to try to see how best we can, incorporate you as well. So just type in the chat if you agree with something, if you want to take something out, so we can move forward. We just want to present you what we have and to see if this is something that you would want to see happen, right? So this is just we're just representatives from the different countries, but we need to hear from you as well. All right?
Okay, so I would like to hear from our the persons in the room and online. What do you think are some of the challenges in terms of getting technology in agriculture? For example, I'm fascinated by hydroponics, right? Now, this is a part of protected agriculture. What are some of the difficulties that might hinder this particular system in your